partners of sleep talkers or sleepwalkers? What gems have you to share? My wife will tell me the next day when I do this. Her favorite story to tell is that she woke up in the middle of the night to find me slowly walking out of our bedroom. Wife, are you okay? What are you doing? Me, there's somebody downstairs in the kitchen. Unrolling the tinfoil. Wife, oh okay. What's your plan? Me, I'm going to stop them. Wife, shall we get a bit more sleep then both go down together? Me, okay. And I went back to bed. Subsequent investigations found a small plastic bag on the floor near my head, being rustled by the movement of the curtain, the window being open. He farted very loudly and proceeded to say, "You got the wrong guy." My girl woke up one night and said, "Did you find your rocks?" And I asked her what she was talking about, and she said, "I don't know. I'm just trying to make conversation," and promptly went back to sleep. She has no recollection of this. My boyfriend woke me up the other day by gently putting his fingers in my mouth, and I kept moving my head out of the way until eventually I was like, "Can you stop that?" He then sounded genuinely upset and asked why I woke him up as he was having a really nice dream about feeding a deer. Brilliant. Sigh. My boyfriend either recites postcodes, delivery driver, or calls the dog in his sleep. So either he is mad no one is responding to his postcode nonsense, or I get a flying 30-kilogram dog to my body. I'd like to imagine that he wakes up and calls the dog just to duck with you. My aunt likes to tell the story about her and my cousin sharing a hotel room one time. My aunt woke up having to pee and found my cousin sitting up in bed with her arms folded across her abdomen, kind of rocking back and forth and giggling quietly. When my aunt asked her what she was doing, my cousin said, "I'm holding a baby and it has an adult smile." I found this story deeply unsettling. Fantastic sleep songs with lyrics, which are utterly bizarre. My two absolute favorites have been 1. Oh whoa whoa, it's a Connor Cat. 2. Obey my rules, and you'll always be a country cowboy, repeated about 5 times, and finished with a "YR" apostrophe. So this one time, while my S/O was sleeping, she randomly reaches over and starts to pet my leg softly. When I ask her what she's doing, she looks at me like I'm stupid and says, "What does it look like?" I'm petting this fluffy baby penguin, then pauses for a second, pats my leg again, and blurts out, "Wait, this isn't a penguin." I have never laughed so hard over someone talking in their sleep. Edit. Thanks for the awards, kind strangers. My wife started screaming one night that she was lost in the local grocery store and that no matter where she went she couldn't find her way out. I asked her, has she tried checking out at the cash registers? She then looked at me and said in her most sincere voice, "That's why you are the smartest person I know." And she rolled over and fell back asleep. One night, my boyfriend woke me up in the middle of the night, tapping me on my shoulder. He put his finger on his mouth, whispered "shush" to me, then pointed at the door and told me I can hear something. Don't move. Predictably, I nearly shit my pants. All the worst possible scenarios crossed my mind, and the moment of silence after he shushed me felt like hours. Then, he started waving his hands and talking about Tetris, the twirlies, IDK, and making sure we don't align. And that's how I learned my boyfriend talks in his sleep. Ex rumored talked in his sleep. Once, he cried out, "No Gandalf." Once my ex said horse. That's all. Just horse. But with a sense of urgency. The same ex told me I once sat straight up in bed and mumbled, "Jesus, Grandma, you scared the shit out of me." I had been dreaming that I was in bed at night and my grandma, still alive at the time, wandered into the room and stood at the end of the bed with a blank stare. My grandfather was a hard sleep talker. My grandmother has a funny story. One day my grandfather, while sleeping, was saying, "Do I punch this asshole?" My grandmother replayed, "Yeah, punch him." Then my grandfather in his sleep punched her. Heck yes. Please take a seat. My wife was an avid sleep talker for a long time, and her midnight announcements range from simple single words to elaborate speeches. The ones that really stand out to me are waking up in the middle of the night to her suddenly sitting violently up in bed, throwing back the covers, and screaming, "Tarantula. That will make you very awake. Very quickly," whispering my name repeatedly, which woke me up so she could share in a hushed, cautious voice, "There is an alligator in here." When I expressed my concern, playing along, she told me, still whispering, that it's okay, it has been here before. But my all-time favorite was when, from her perspective as she later explained, she was dreaming that I was playfully sneaking up on her and she saw me and was calling me on it. From my perspective, my wife sat up in the middle of the night, starting into the darkest corner of the room, and said repeatedly in a soft sing-song voice, "I see yow." My flipping blood froze. TLDR, my wife is terrifying. Edit 1. Thanks for the awards. I'm glad this has managed to make some people laugh/cry at work. I'm the sleep talker here. Got this from my wife the next morning. Me, sits bolt upright, they're coming. Everything's ready. Wife, sleepily me, they're coming. Everything's ready. Wife, they're coming. Me, MMMHMM. Wife, but everything's ready. Me. Yes wife, sounds like we're okay then. Me, comically flops back down and instantly goes back to sleep. Edit, formatting. My wife was mumbling a lot and suddenly shouted "donkey kick" as she kicked me in my shin. So that was fun. My wife was in her finals week, so she woke up in the middle of the night telling me she discovered a way to study while sleeping. So I asked her how, and she closed her eyes and went back to sleep. Years ago, my wife was mumbling in her sleep and seemed a bit upset. I wanted to comfort her without waking her up too much. So I said, "Honey, you're fine. Do you know where you are?" She slugged me in the arm and said, "I'm in place where punch buggies are seen first." She then rolled over and muttered to herself, "Chugga chugga chugga buggy," and went back to sleep. She didn't remember a thing the next morning. My mom sleepwalks sometimes. When she was in the middle of her residency, she came into my room in the middle of the night and sharply asked, "Did you give patient her dose of medication like I asked you to 15 minutes ago?" I groggily replied, "Who? Wah?" She just huffed and said, "Well, I guess that answers my question," before turning around and leaving. Without closing the door, of course. She didn't remember a thing about it the next morning. What is it with moms never closing bedroom doors? It transcends age, race, location, and all other demographics imaginable. If you're a mom, bedroom doors do not close. It is the way. To the moms reading this, be the change. He got up, went into the kitchen, and ate one bite of a mini pecan pie. No fork. Just a straight bite. Then apparently remembered he hates pecan pie and left it stacked neatly on the little box. Another time he sat up and stared straight ahead at the wall. Didn't respond to me asking what was wrong. He stood up, walked into the wall, then stood there like he was contemplating the barrier. He just backed up exactly as he came, sat down and swung back into bed like nothing happened. That was creepy. I was in my brother's room watching TV with him, and he ended up falling asleep. He mumbled something about Arizona, and when I asked what he said, he didn't respond. Then a few minutes later he sits up, squints his eyes and just scans the room back and forth. I asked if he was okay, and he laid back down and went back to sleep. I still don't know what he was scanning the room for, but it creeped me out. Napping with the boyfriend. A loud noise wakes me, but has still out me. What was that? Him, either a tree or a magic eraser. I have had funnier experiences than this one, but cannot remember exactly what was said. Most recently, though, my boyfriend scoots over to me to big spoon/little spoon, and I snuggle in, thinking that's all it was. Then he gets real close to my ear and whispers, "Just so you know, there's something in the closet," like a cartoon turtle. I did my best not to bust out laughing and just said, "Okay honey." When he woke up, he had no memory of it whatsoever. Of course, Were you the slightest bit concerned of the cartoon turtle? I would have checked the closet. I've been told that, as a child, my father would regularly sleepwalk into his dad's bedroom and urinate in his work shoes. My girlfriend once yelled in her sleep, "No no no you spunky lesbian," do still tease her about it. My brother did that in the middle of the night. He would get up, go into the living room, say some nonsense shit to our parents, and go back to bed. It was actually pretty creepy the first times, because he was like, "They are in the walls. They are. I do this too." But I usually wake up as the sentence is coming out of my mouth and realize the convo I'm replying to wasn't real. Then I yell "never mind" and run away in shame. When I was a child about 5 years old, I was sleeping in my parents' bed for some reason, probably a storm. Mom was awake. Dad and I were asleep. Suddenly my father and I have this cross-sleep conversation while my mom lays between us. Quietly freaked out, "Dad, you better not take my toys." I mutter angrily, "Okay, I won't." My father responds, "Don't even touch them." Okay, not particularly scintillating conversation, but notable for the fact that we're both asleep and still responding to each other. It was like making Alexa and Siri talk to each other, lol. My mom used to wake me up for school because I'd sleep through my alarms. She has a bunch of stories about weird shit I've said to her right before waking. "Has not here. Check down the street. Just put it on the roof and it'll blow away." My mom has to do this with my younger brother, and most recently he sat up while still asleep, started moving his arms really quickly as though running, and said, "I'm the fastest man alive, Barry Allen." My girlfriend was sleepwalking one night. Can we get that done this week? Me. Can we get that done this week? Me. Sorry. Can we get that done this week please? Me. Okay. Thanks. My husband once sat bolt upright on bed and announced, "You're not working hard enough. I have to fire you," and went back to sleep. Not a partner, but 1 o'clock in the morning I got a phone call from my friend in the next street. My 6-year-old daughter had just knocked on her door and then walked in mumbling about not being able to do her sums. I raced up there and walked home with her, put her back to bed, and she didn't wake up or remember a thing the next day. By the next night our house was like Fort Knox. Not my partner, but my younger brother and I used to share a room and used bunk beds. One night I heard him mumble, "I don't create the weather. I just predict it." My missus called me a wriggly little enzyme while she was sleeping. I've never ever heard her use that word before. My GF does a bit of sleep talking. I mentioned a sheep character from Animal Crossing, Dom, and she sounded like she was about to cry, saying he doesn't have hands. Which, to be fair, he doesn't. One time, my ex was asleep and started to snore progressively loud. He startled himself half awake, and he says out loud to himself, "Shut up. I'm sleeping." Oh, I snorted my drink through my nose. My boyfriend once blurted out, "You're putting bread in my ears" in his sleep, mumbled something unintelligible, and then followed up with "and I'm becoming a sandwich." Still makes me laugh whenever I remember. Roommate freshman year of college was a sleepwalker / sleep talker. We were in the freshman dorms. Small little room. I woke up one night and saw him sitting straight up on the side of the bed, just staring at me, eyes fully open, just talking gibberish about golf. He was going on about Phil Mickelson or some shit. Have to be honest, it was creepy as all hell because he was staring directly into my eyes. Next morning, I told him about it and he just laughed and said, "Sorry, I tend to do that from time to time." I'd be the king of Monaco. My wife said this one night out of nowhere. The funniest part was her tone of voice. Proud and assertive. Like she was really sure of her claim to the throne. Anyway, the joke's on her. Monaco is a principality. Wow. Thanks everyone. I've never had a post or comment get above 10 upvotes before and definitely never had any awards. Husband woke up in the morning and told me about a crazy dream he had. We were hosting a party and he was serving cookies. He was upset that nobody was eating them When we went downstairs, we discovered a full plate of cookies sitting on our dining table. We were freshly married and living overseas. My husband hadn't had much sleep the nights before, which usually enhances any sleep talking. It was hot in our room. My husband mumbled something which I didn't quite catch. I asked him to repeat it. He got up, opened the bedroom window, and said very pointedly airflow. Bitch, then laid back down, completely asleep. Now, my husband has never, not once, ever called me a name or even raised his voice to me, so this is particularly hilarious. Edit, you guys are far too kind with all the awards and upvotes. Thank you so much. Also, this happened before Breaking Bad was a big thing. So maybe my husband is the original Jesse Pinkman, except without all the meth and mayhem. Of course. When my girlfriend and I started dating, she told me that she's been told she talks in her sleep from time to time, and unfortunately has nightmares fairly often. One of the first nights we spent together, she wakes up at 2 AM and sits up super fast. It wakes me up, and I look over, only to hear her quickly say, "Pizza. Order a pizza." Then lie back down and start snoring within a minute. God, I love that woman, LMAO. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.